For the polynomial 2x cubed minus 4y plus yz plus 5, answer the following questions. A. Write the polynomial as a sum of terms. Any subtraction sign will be rewritten as plus a negative. So we have 2x to the third plus negative 4y plus yz plus 5. Question B. What is or are the variables? The variables are the letters. So the variables are x, y, and z. Question C. What are the terms? A term is an added or subtracted quantity. Plus signs or minus signs, in our case plus signs, separate one term from another. So 2x to the third, that's one term. Negative 4y is another term. Yz is another term. And 5 is the last term. Question D. A constant term is a term that has no variable multiplied into it. The first term has a variable, this one has a variable, this one has a variable. So 5 is the constant term. Question E. What is or are the variable terms? A variable term has at least one variable multiplied into it. 2x cubed has the variable x. Negative 4y has the variable y. Yz, or y times z, has two variables multiplied into it. These are the variable terms. Question F. What is the coefficient of the term yz? We'll answer a slightly different question. What is the coefficient of the term 2x cubed? The coefficient is the real number multiplied, usually, at the front of the term. 2 is the coefficient of 2x cubed. Negative 4 is the coefficient of negative 4y. Positive 1 is implied to be the coefficient of the yz term. So 1 is the coefficient of yz. Here we have a definition. Two terms are called like terms if the variable parts of the terms are the same. Like terms are terms that have all of the same variables, each raised to the same power. Determine if the following pairs of terms are like terms. 4x and 6x are like terms because they have the same variable x, each raised to the same implied power of 1. A squared and a to the third power are not like terms. They may have the same variable a, but their exponents or powers are different. Those terms are not like terms. Part C. 3b and 3. These terms are not like terms. One of them has a variable b, the other does not. 1/2 y and 1.2 y. Both of these terms have the same variable, y, each raised to the same power, the implied power of 1. So these terms are like terms. Negative x squared y and 3xy. The powers of y may match, but the powers of x, here 2 and here implied to be 1, do not match. So these terms are not like terms. 3 and 4, each of these terms is a constant term. They are like. Simplify, if possible, by combining like terms. We do have like terms. The term 8y and the term minus 3y both have the same variable y, each raised to the implied power of 1. So our computation is on their coefficients. In our head or on the side we write 8 minus 3, which is 5. Therefore, 8y minus 3y produces 5y. Like terms, when added or subtracted, produce another like term, like the terms it came from. Simplify, if possible, by combining like terms. These terms are not like terms. It does not simplify. For example, you don't get 15a. When terms are not like terms, you cannot add together their coefficients. So this one does not simplify, and this expression would be left untouched. Simplify, if possible, by combining like terms. Sometimes we may want to write subtraction as addition of a negative. So we would write in this case plus negative 5. So we have 2x plus 7x plus negative 5 plus 4. 2x and the 7x are like terms. They both have the variable x raised to the same implied power of 1. So our mental computation is on their coefficients, 2 plus 7, which is 9. So 2x plus 7x produces another like term, another x term, 9x. Negative 5 plus 4 are both constant terms, and constant terms are like. They're like each other. So we have to compute negative 5 plus 4. If we're at negative 5 on the number line, that's our starting number, and move to the right 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, we'd be at negative 1. So we have 9x plus negative 1, or more simply, 9x minus 1. Simplify, if possible, by combining like terms. Again, it might be advantageous to change the subtraction to plus a negative, but I'm not going to do that in this case, because for these terms, these like terms, minus sign comes second, so I will be subtracting 2/3 minus 1/6. I think that'll be easy enough to do as written. Again, since the first two terms are like terms, they are both x terms, we work on their coefficients. 2/3 minus 1/6, the common denominator is 6. So 2/3, I have to multiply the denominator by 2, the numerator by that same number, by 2. That would give us 4/6. 1/6 already has the denominator 6, so I don't need to alter that in any kind of way. 4/6 minus 1/6 is 4 minus 1/6, which is 3/6. 3 is half of 6, we have 1/2. So the first two terms, 2/3 x minus 1/6 x, gives us 1/2 x. 2 plus 4/5, these are constant terms, they are like each other. We now add those together. 2 we can write as 2 divided by 1 plus 4 divided by 5. Common denominator is 5. So 2 is the same thing as 10 divided by 5 plus, second fraction has a denominator of 5 already, we don't alter it. So we have 10 plus 4 divided by 5, or 14/5. So our answer is 1/2 x plus 14/5. 3.2a plus 0.4a plus 8b plus 0.5b. These two terms are like terms. They are like each other because they have the same variable, a, each raised to the same power, the implied power of 1. So our computation is on their coefficients. 3.2 plus 0.4 gives us 3.6. So 3.2a plus 0.4a gives us 3.6a. Like terms added or subtracted together produce a like term. Positive 8b and 0.5b are like terms. They have the same variable b raised to the same power, the implied power of 1. So we add their coefficients. 8 plus 0.5, let's write 8 as 8.0. Add together, get 8.5. So we have 3.6a plus 8.5b. These two b terms added together give us another b term. Evaluate 4x minus 7 if x equals 3. We will replace this variable x with the value 3. So we have 4 times, because 4x means 4 times x, and here's where we insert the value 3 for x, minus 7. Order of operations requires us to multiply before we subtract. 4 times 3 is 12, so we have 12 minus 7, which equals 5. Evaluate 1/3 times the quantity, x plus 4 if x equals 2. We will replace this variable x with the value 2. We have 1/3 times the quantity, and here's where we replace x with 2 plus 4 close parentheses. Order of operations requires us to compute what's inside the parentheses before we perform this multiplication. 2 plus 4 is 6. So we have 1/3 times 6. That's equivalent to writing 1/3 times 6 divided by 1. Multiplying through the numerators, we get 6. Multiplying through the denominators, we get 3. We have 6 divided by 3, and the answer is 2. Evaluate a minus 3 plus 21 when a equals negative 6. We will replace this a with this value negative 6. Here's where we insert negative 6 for a. Negative 6 minus 3 plus 21. We compute what's inside the parentheses. Negative 6 minus 3. If you wish, you can think of that as negative 6 plus negative 3. When we're adding together two negatives, we add their absolute values. So on the side we add 6 plus 3, which is 9. Therefore, negative 6 plus negative 3 is negative 9. So we have negative 9 plus 21. This is equivalent to writing 21, still positive, minus 9. And that is 12. Evaluate 0.5 times the quantity 2 plus x if x equals negative 2.4. We will replace this x with this value, negative 2.4, equals 0.5 times the quantity 2 plus, and here's where we insert negative 2.4 for x. We have to take care of what's inside the parentheses first. So we need to take 2 plus negative 2.4. Let's work that on the side. There are a couple of ways to do this. First, this plus and negative can be rewritten as subtraction, 2 minus 2.4. Now here's a little trick. If we have a smaller number take away a greater number, what we can do is switch the order, take greater, 2.4 minus 2, what will that be? 0.4. So in other words, 2.4 minus 2 is 0.4. Then here's a trick, if you can call it that. Switching the order back, 2 minus 2.4 is negative 0.4. So inside the parentheses we have negative 0.4. So we have 0.5 times negative 0.4. Now, a positive times a negative is a negative, so we have handled the sign. Now let's work out 0.5 times 0.4. 4 times 5 is 20, carry the 2. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. Skip a space. 0 times 5 is 0, 0 times 0 is 0. There are a total of 1, 2 digits to the right of the decimal, so counting back from the right 2 places, 1, 2, we locate the decimal right here, 0.2. We already decided it's negative, so our answer is negative 0.2. Evaluate y times a quantity y minus 7 if y equals 3. We're going to replace each and every y with this value of 3. So we have 3 times the quantity 3 minus 7. We can take care of what's inside the parentheses first. 3 minus 7. Here's a trick. If we have a smaller number take away a larger number, what we can do is reverse the order and do the subtraction in a comfortable way. 7 minus 3 is 4. That implies that 3 minus 7, when I reverse them back and subtract, is negative 4. So we have 3 times the quantity, negative 4. Positive times negative is negative. 3 times 4 is 12. Our answer is negative 12. Evaluate 4x plus 2y if x equals 6 and y equals 5. So this value 6 will go in place of x. The value 5 will go in place of y. We understand 4x to mean 4 times x. So here is where we insert the value 6 for x plus 2y, and again we understand 2y to mean 2 times, and here's where we insert 5 for y. We have to multiply before we add. Multiplying 4 times 6 is 24. Multiplying 2 times 5 is 10. So we have 24 plus 10, which is 34. If x equals negative 4, negative 4 replaces x. So we have negative 4 plus 6y. 6y means 6 times y, and negative 7 goes in place of y. So we have negative 4 plus 6 times negative 7. We multiply before we add. 6 times negative 7, positive times negative is negative 42 in this case. So we have negative 4 plus negative 42. When we're adding together two negatives, we add their absolute value. So on this side we add together 4 plus 42, which is 46. That implies that negative 4 plus negative 42 is negative 46. So that's our answer in this case, negative 46. Evaluate 4x plus 3y if x equals 1/2 and y equals negative 1. 4x means 4 times x, and x is 1/2. So we have 4 times 1/2. Plus 3 times y, and y is negative 1. When we insert negative numbers, we often wrap parentheses around them. Let's figure out 4 times 1/2. That's 4 divided by 1 times 1 divided by 2. That gives 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Plus, positive times negative is negative. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 plus negative 3. Plus a negative is the same thing as subtract. So this is 2 minus 3. Now smaller minus larger. We can do this little trick. Let's do larger minus smaller. 3 minus 2 is 1. Therefore, 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And that is our answer here, negative 1. Evaluate 2/3 times the quantity 2x plus 6y if x equals 3 and y equals 1. 2x means 2 times x, so this 3 will go in place of that x. 6y means 6 times y, and this 1 here goes in place of this y. Inside the parentheses where we start, we do the multiplications. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 1 is 6. So we have 2/3 times the quantity 6 plus 6. Continuing inside the parentheses, we have 12. So we have 2/3 times 12. We can write 2/3 times 12 divided by 1. Multiplying fractions together, we multiply through the numerators. 2 times 12 is 24. Multiply through the denominators. 3 times 1 is 3. 24 over 3 really means 24 divided by 3, which is 8. That is our answer. 8. Evaluate x squared if x equals -5. This -5 goes in place of x. And let me tell you the wrong way to write this. Just put a -5 there and square it. Order of operations actually means that this exponent 2 only works on the 5. That would be 5 times 5, then a negative in front of it, -25. And that's wrong. So what should we do instead? Well, -5 will go in place of x, but whenever we insert a negative number, we should wrap it in parentheses. So we have -5 wrapped in parentheses raised to the second power. And that means -5 times -5. Negative times negative is positive, and we get positive 25 as our answer. Evaluate the quantity 2x minus y, all raised to the second power, if x equals -2 and y equals 5. 2x means 2 times x. Here's where we insert -2 for x minus y. And here's where we insert 5 for y. This is all raised to the second power. Inside the parentheses we have a multiplication and subtraction. Multiplication takes priority. 2 times -2 is -4. So we have -4 minus 5 all raised to the second power. Let's figure out over here what -4 minus 5 is. This subtraction we can write as plus a negative. So we have -4 plus -5. We are adding two numbers with the same sign. So we add their absolute values. 4 plus 5, which gives us 9. Therefore, -4 plus -5 gives us -9. So we have -9 in parentheses to the second power. This exponent applies to this -9. So we have -9 times -9. Negative times negative is positive. Our answer is 81.